3,000 years of peace had left Earth gleaming. Cities floated above oceans, forests thrived where factories once stood, and the word war belonged to museums and morality debates. Children learned about it as an ancient curiosity, like fossil fuels or landlines. Humanity, once fractured, now governed itself through a unified planetary council, guided by post-scarcity technology, hyperintelligent AI, and a philosophy of peaceful coexistence. They were diplomats, artists, terraformers, healers. Among the stars, they were regarded with a mixture of awe and disbelief. Civilized to the bone, some said. Complacent, whispered others. Rin Arasaka had never felt entirely comfortable with peace. A historian by training and council advisor by necessity, he had spent decades archiving the brutal roots of humanity's past, often alone in vaults buried beneath the Martian surface. He was one of the few who remembered war not through holograms or virtual simulations, but through first-hand study of ancient military code, crumbling tactical manuals, and locked AI memories. His peers found it eccentric, even distasteful. But it gave him an edge the day Eden's Reach went silent. Eden's Reach was a small human colony nestled along the Orion Corridor, a diplomatic outpost and scientific haven, home to families of xenobiologists, envoys, and their children. It was supposed to be protected under the Galactic Accord, a treaty so robust that even the most volatile alien species abided by it. But on the 6th day of the stellar cycle, every transmission from Eden's Reach ceased. The backup relays triggered an automatic alert, and what followed shattered the illusion of safety. The footage was brief, grainy, and unmistakable. A hulking Zorathian vessel, black and ridged like an insect's carapace, descended through the atmosphere. Energy signatures matched military-grade displacers. A sweep of paralyzing light, the muffled screams of children, and then silence. No demands, no declaration, just a void. The Zorathians had long been tolerated within the Accord, a relic of compromise in an otherwise stable galactic ecosystem. Imperialistic and hierarchical, they had conquered a dozen species before agreeing to peace. Their worlds were rich in resources, their empire vast, and their politics shrewd. Accusations of minor raid, slavery, or violations surfaced now and then, but were buried under red tape, diplomatic spin, or bribes disguised as trade incentives. No one wanted to challenge them. Not until now. Within Earth's Grand Hall, the Council convened in emergency session. Representatives of every continent stood beneath the stained glass dome, bathed in filtered starlight. The walls displayed a silent stream of data, ship logs, orbital scans, incomplete casualty reports. They spoke in careful phrases, trying to contain the shape of a growing storm. "We cannot rush to judgment," said High Speaker Lean, her tone measured. "The Zorathians claim it was a rogue faction, an isolated incident. They always claim that," someone murmured. "Then let the Accord investigate," another replied. "War is not the answer." Rin stood slowly. He hadn't spoken in hours, but when he did, the hall fell quiet. "Peace," he said, "is not a virtue when it's blind." The council shifted uncomfortably. We trusted the Accord. We trusted that signing documents and sharing resources would be enough. But now we have evidence of children, our children, taken. If this is not an act of war, then what is? His words were met with silence, then a low murmur of unease. The breakthrough came not from the council, but from a leak. An anonymous signal uploaded encrypted footage across the planetary net. A grim reel of Zorathian biolabs. Children strapped to vertical harnesses, eyes wide with fear. Surgical drones hovering like carrion. Language modules attempting to translate the cries. One child, no older than 8, reached toward the lens with a bloodied hand before the feed cut. The footage spread like wildfire. No news outlet could contain it. It played on public terminals, personal feeds, even the art installations that usually displayed serene poetry. Entire city blocks went silent as the footage looped. A single mother stood before the council the next day. Her name was Nia Hallberg, a botanist from Eden's Reach who had been off-world on a research exchange when the abduction occurred. Her voice was raw. "My son's name is Elias," she said. "He built weather drones out of spare parts. He wanted to grow forests on asteroids. And now he's in a cage because we believe the galaxy had outgrown monsters." She paused, swallowing the weight of the world. "We gave peace 3,000 years. What did it give our children?" Ron watched the vote that followed, hand trembling only once before it pressed a seal. 70% in favor. The resolution passed. Humanity would break its long silence. Not with threats. Not with diplomacy. With war. Deep beneath Luna's crust, ancient databanks stirred. Servers long dormant began to hum, releasing locked protocols. Mars lit up with alert codes last seen before the invention of faster-than-light travel. Orbiting around Saturn, a massive ring station began fabrication cycles designed for vessels that hadn't been seen in millennia. The last image before the session ended was simple. A display of every known human fleet registry code, old and new, lit red across the screen. One line pulsed brighter than the rest. Project Cerberus, active. Ron turned from the chamber, eyes hardened not with hatred, but with resolve. The galaxy had mistaken humanity's peace for passivity. It would not make that mistake again. The moon's hidden vaults breathed for the first time in 3 millennia. Beneath its sterile, cratered surface, long-buried hangars released locks forged in the old age, thick doors shifting with the groan of ancient metal. Inside, 1,000 dormant war machines waited. Not rusted relics, but precision-kept monsters. Drones with minds just shy of sentience, exosuits laced with gravitic thread, and ships whose hulls pulsed with dormant nanite veins. Humanity hadn't forgotten war. They had buried it like a coiled viper, deep and cold, and now they were waking it up. Rehan Arasaka stood on the command deck of the Typhon-class flagship Resolute Dawn, orbiting high above Earth. Around him, holographic displays flickered with mission parameters and fleet deployment algorithms. His face, once mostly known in academic journals and peace symposiums, was now projected onto military feeds across the solar system. His eyes, sharp beneath a streak of gray hair, held none of the softness they once had in council halls. He wasn't alone. Beside him stood Commander Alira Voss, former lead in the Terran AI Ethics Consortium. She had been among the strongest voices against reactivating military intelligences, until she saw the footage of Eden's Reach. Now, her expression was unreadable as she interfaced with the Warframe consoles. "Cerberus protocol is fully live," she said. "Armada deployment begins within the hour. We've awakened the Leviathan class cores, and preliminary tests show they still obey human command." Ren nodded. "Any resistance?" "Some protests. Mostly pacifists. But even they're quieter now." Silence fell between them. There had been a cost to awakening these weapons. Ideals. Memories. The illusion that peace was permanent. But the grief of a single child's scream had drowned all of it. Earth's skies shimmered as the first wave of ships broke orbit, sleek, obsidian hulls gliding through the exosphere like resurrected gods. Civilian engineers worked shoulder to shoulder with AI tacticians, decoding legacy codes and translating ancient war doctrines into updated protocols. Factories, once devoted to habitat construction, now spun armor plating and coil guns. Even Mars, the long silent forge world, erupted with activity as orbital rings lit up like circuitry veins, feeding dreadnoughts into the void. Each ship bore a single blazing insignia, a stylized cradle wreathed in flame. The message was simple. The children would be avenged. Across the interstellar relay net, a simple phrase echoed from every terminal, every screen. "They took our children." The phrase did not need explanation. It passed between citizens like prayer, tattooed onto skin, etched into ships, woven into music. Even the youngest humans, raised in peace, understood. Something in their DNA, deeper than language, stirred. A cultural shift unfurled like a shadow stretching across the stars. In the command chamber of the Resolute Dawn, Run watched as the strike team prepared for their first engagement. The target was identified, an uncharted asteroid belt on the edge of Zorathian territory. Intelligence intercepted from the Accord's passive monitoring satellites suggested a trafficking node, illegal bioexchange hub camouflaged under a mining operation. It was the sort of place the Accord once quietly ignored. But now it would be humanity's first declaration. Deploy the Cerberus Lance, Ren ordered. Alira didn't hesitate. Confirmed. Strike team launching now. From the belly of the Resolute Dawn, a squadron of stealth-capable interceptors launched into the void, each piloted by an integrated human-AI duo, bonded through neural lattice. These were not mindless drones. They were precision instruments, wielded by vengeance. The asteroid base never saw them coming. The first strike cut power to its gravitational core. The second destabilized its external defenses. And the third, a coordinated breach using phase disruptor boarding charges, delivered human boots into Zorathian corridors. The aliens fought with desperation, teeth bared and claws slashing, but they were no match for trained operators wielding enhanced reflex stimulants and pulse blade gauntlets. 15 minutes. That was all it took. Inside the facility, humans found proof, medical equipment laced with human DNA, communication logs referencing captive stock, and genetic samples filed under numbered tags. No children were held there, but the data trail led outward, deeper into Zorathian space. Ren stared at the recovered data, his jaw tight. "They're moving them," he muttered. "They're not just experimenting. They're trading them. Like currency." Alira's hands clenched behind her back. "We broadcast this. Everything. The galaxy should see who they are, and who we're becoming." Within the day, the footage spread. Other species began to take sides. Some whispered support in hidden channels, species too weak to speak openly, but long resentful of Zorathian tyranny. Others panicked, issuing public statements condemning the violence, begging for restraint. But humanity didn't wait. A second wave struck deeper. This time, they didn't ask permission. They tore through outer defensive platforms of the Zorathian perimeter worlds, disabling supply chains and capturing black market vendors allied with the Empire. Every engagement was swift, brutal, and precise. It was not just vengeance, it was demonstration. The galaxy watched, stunned. Humanity, the pacifist architects of peace, had become a force no one recognized. Their weapons were clean, their strategy cold. There was no celebration in their victories. No conquest, only reclamation. Still, Ren Arasaka knew the worst was yet to come. He stood alone at the viewport of his quarters, watching Earth shrink into a blue star behind him. Below, the Resolute Dawn accelerated toward the next target, a relay node buried within Zorathian jurisdiction. There was a high probability the children had been moved through it. If they were lucky, some would still be alive. If they were unlucky, he didn't allow that thought to finish. He remembered Elias Hallberg's photo. A boy with copper curls, holding a drone shaped like a beetle, smiling as if the universe made sense. "We're coming," Ren whispered. Outside, the stars began to bend. The fleet vanished into the dark. The galaxy flinched. Across thousands of systems, the spectacle of humanity's wrath spread like an electromagnetic storm. Each broadcasted strike, each calculated incursion, shattering the collective assumption that humans were docile architects of diplomacy. The Accord convened in emergency channels, high-frequency debates crackling through subspace. Words like disproportionate, escalation, and precipice were traded like currency. But beneath the polished language, one fear echoed in every translation. What else are they capable of? The Zorathian Empire, once smug behind layers of treaties and implied invincibility, began to fracture. Peripheral colonies initiated martial law. High Chancellor Akor appeared on tri-band holofeeds to denounce the attacks as terrorism, calling humanity a destabilizing force. But his eyes betrayed unease, darting, calculating. The usual arrogance was gone, replaced by something deeper. Recognition. The humans weren't retaliating. They were executing. Ren Arasaka stood in the war chamber of the Resolute Dawn, staring at a holographic projection of the galactic frontier. Red pulses marked every facility hit, every relay destroyed. Supply chains were broken. Slave routes collapsed. Zorathian communications flickered with chaos. They'd underestimated humanity's reach. Commander Alira Voss entered quietly. Her face was pale, unreadable. New intelligence confirms the children were moved. We have coordinates, a fortified research station near the gas giant Ecor Prime. Heavily shielded. Off record. Rin didn't turn. Defended. Yes. And baited if I had to guess. It's not just a lab. It's a message. They want to test how far we'll go. They still think we're bluffing. He turned now slowly. Then let's show them we don't bluff. Alira hesitated. We need to talk about the collateral. Rin waited. They're escalating. Civilians. Border skirmishes. Yesterday, they firebombed a Terran outpost on Thes 9. 78 dead. 20 children. The silence between them stretched, taut as wire. We'll bury them later, Rin said. Right now we finish this. The mission brief was delivered to the fleet within the hour. 3 strike teams, 10 warframes, 1 dreadnought carrier. No survivors expected from the Zorathian side. No delays permitted. The children, if still alive, would be recovered. Or avenged. Before launch, the crew gathered in the Chamber of Reflection. No ceremony. No speeches. Just a single recording played from Earth, Nia Hallberg's voice, steady and soft, recounting her son Elias's final words before he left Eden's reach. I'm going to find a planet made of clouds. Then the engines roared. The battle over Ecor Prime was the most violent engagement in recent galactic history. The Zorathian station was more than a lab. It was a fortress. Ion pulse cannons lined its perimeter. Shield harmonics rotated in layered phases, and swarms of bioengineered defense drones flooded the void like black snow. Human ships sliced through them. The Resolute Dawn led the charge, delivering shockwave pulses that cracked the outer shielding. Warframes deployed in formation, carving through enemy corridors with monomolecular blades and incendiary charges. Inside, the fighting turned brutal. Zorathian soldiers clawed and shrieked, but the humans moved with terrifying grace. No hesitation, no mercy. Rin walked through blood-slick halls, flanked by 2 Guardian-class AI combatants. His rifle glowed with heat, the metal casing hissing against the cold atmosphere. Every corner revealed more of the horror. Vivisection tables, cryo chambers, failed experiments floating in translucent tanks. Then they found them. 14 children. Alive. Thin. Sedated. But breathing. Alira fell to her knees at the sight, her exosuit hissing as it unlocked around her. She cradled the boy with cybernetic implants along his spine. He didn't resist, only blinked up at her with glassy eyes and whispered something in a language she didn't know. Behind them, Rin stared at the other pods. Not all were intact. Not all had survived. When the rescue ship broke orbit, carrying the children in stasis, the galaxy changed again. Broadcasts of the retrieval echoed across the networks. Half celebration, half reckoning. The message was inarguable. Humanity had come, and it had won. But victory left an ache that couldn't be soothed. In the quiet that followed, questions began to surface. Not from the outside, but from within. Rin sat alone in the Resolute Dawn's observation deck, watching the silver storms of Ecor Prime churn below. One of the children, Elias Hallberg, stood beside him. Awake now. Recovering. He said little, but the boy had drawn strange symbols on the glass with his breath, abstract loops and shapes. They said Earth was made of light, Elias whispered. Rin turned to him. We're taking you back there. I know. A pause. Then, softer. Are we still human? The question landed harder than any missile. Rin didn't answer. Not immediately. He reached forward, gently wiped the fog from the glass. We will be. Once we stop needing to be something else. Behind them, the stars blinked. Far away, other children still waited. Other crimes still festered in shadows. The Zorathian Empire hadn't fallen. Not yet. But it had cracked. Ren stood. His voice was low. Set course for the next target. This wasn't over. The Zorathian Empire collapsed not with a bang, but with a fracture that rippled outward. Quiet, methodical, final. In the weeks following the liberation of the research station, dozens of their outer worlds declared neutrality or open rebellion. Supply lines turned into escape routes. Governors vanished or were assassinated by their own guard units. And at the center of the chaos, humanity moved forward with surgical precision. The war had never been about conquest. There were no banners raised, no human flags planted in alien soil. Every operation was documented, broadcast, archived. Each assault paired with evidence of atrocity. Each victory underscored by a child's name recovered. The galaxy had never seen a war like it. Cold fury, weaponized grief. Rin Arasaka no longer briefed. He no longer needed to. His face was etched into every command channel as a symbol of unwavering will. Orders came from his voice, but the momentum was carried by something greater, a species that had reawakened the part of itself it once feared, and found it still sharp, still capable. Commander Alira Voss now led the strategic corps. Her once dispassionate mind had grown flint-hard, honed through loss and responsibility. She spoke less, listened more. She had watched too many field reports of crying children and silent black bags to entertain hesitation anymore. But they both knew the war was no longer about rescue. It was reckoning. The final objective came not from intelligence or recon, but from an intercepted transmission. A panic message from a Zorathian official trying to flee the inner core. Coordinates encrypted in old Accord ciphers. It spoke of the Vault, an imperial genetic archive buried beneath the Zorathian homeworld itself. Rumor claimed it housed not only the deepest evidence of their eugenic horrors, but the command structures that authorized them. It was there the last of the stolen children had been taken, or so the Empire believed. As leverage, as bait, the human fleet did not hesitate. The Resolute Dawn led a coalition of 20 ships into the heart of Zorathian space. Their arrival was met not by battle formations, but by a dead world. The skies were fractured with orbital debris. The capital's orbital rings hung in pieces. On the surface, silence. The Empire had folded in on itself. Some surrendered. Some fled. Some self-immolated rather than face what approached. Ruin and Alira led the descent personally, flanked by a small team of operatives and 2 AI war avatars. The vault was hidden beneath layers of obsidian crust, sealed by genetic locks keyed to the Imperial bloodline. But the Zorathians had always underestimated Earth's capacity to adapt. It took 3 hours to breach. They moved through vault corridors like ghosts, evidence of thousands of years of genetic experiments stored in tanks, memory cubes, and stasis archives. They found not just human children, but others. Dozens of species, hybridized, dissected, rewritten at the molecular level. The scale of the horror was impossible to quantify. In the center chamber, they found the final group. 17 children, including the last unaccounted for from Eden's reach. They were alive, barely. Sedated. One had implants extending from her temples like polished thorns. Her heartbeat erratic beneath the medical readings. Ron approached, placing a hand on the stasis shell. His reflection stared back at him, older than he remembered. "We're here," he whispered. The vault self-destruct protocols activated upon the breach. One last Zorathian failsafe. The team evacuated under a storm of collapsing stone and system failure. The recovered children carried in suspended cradles across plasmafire fields. The Resolute Dawn caught their shuttle as it broke atmosphere, deploying its shielding at the last second. They left nothing behind. With the fall of the vault, the Zorathian Empire officially disbanded. What remained splintered into isolated city-states, demilitarized and monitored by a new galactic tribunal, one formed not by the old Accord, but a coalition of formerly silent species. Humanity declined to lead it. They offered resources, structure, support, but not dominance. Their role was already clear. In the weeks that followed, Earth became a world of grief and rebuilding. The recovered children were returned to their families or given new homes if none remained. Their recovery was long, uncertain. Most had been altered genetically, neurologically. But they were safe now. They were home. Nia Hallberg sat with Elias on the banks of a river carved into the terraformed plains of Europa. He said little, but he began to draw again, shapes in the soil that resembled clouds. Ren Arasaka resigned from command the day the last child was released from care. He refused accolades, decorations, or historical monuments. He disappeared quietly, boarding a small vessel bound for the Kuiper colonies. Elira stayed behind, not to fight but to build. She helped form the Sentinel Accord, a galactic watch system designed to prevent future atrocities. Its charter was one line long: never again without consequence. And so the war ended, not in conquest, not in silence, but in memory. The galaxy would not forget what humanity had done, what it had become, what it had returned to. And somewhere, far beyond the edge of known space, in systems still dark and wild, someone would remember the price of touching a human child.